episode of Comics Review. I'm your host, Kevin Starkey. The first comic I want to talk about today is Silent Hill, Past Life. This is issue number 1. This is by IDW Comics. The writer on this is Tom Waltz, and the art is by Menton 3. Kind of an odd name there. I know this comes from a video game. I think there's been 3, maybe more, Silent Hill video games. Then they made a movie, Silent Hill, I guess just one. And I haven't played the games or seen the movie. My wife said we started watching the movie and I fell asleep, so I don't really know anything about the franchise. I picked up this comic because it's in the horror genre. I thought, it might be kind of creepy. I looked at the art inside and it's really some cool stuff in there. Really like the art, the style. This takes place, the story in here takes place right after the Civil War in the U.S., and it's sort of Western. They ride in a little wagon. There's a husband and wife, Jeb and Vanessa, and they're traveling from the Dakota territories, somewhere on the East Coast. Silent Hill is the city they're traveling towards. I don't know what state that's in. The wife, Vanessa, she has family that owned this property in Silent Hill who died, a relative, and she's the only living heir, so she's getting the property given to her, inheriting it, I guess. And so her and her husband are moving there to live in the house and clean it up and just start a new life out there. And she seems to be very prudish, very religious. She's got all these strict rules, and she's basically trying to change her husband. He's sort of, it's implied that he's lived this wild life, and she's trying to tame him, sort of. And you're really just introduced to the characters and introduced to the story in here. It doesn't really get into a whole lot of stuff, scary, spooky stuff. They get to the house, and there's this lady they find in the house. And she's got a knife, and she's cut herself, and she's all bleeding and everything. And she's real creepy and weird, and you don't really get the whole picture. Something weird has happened at this place, but you don't really know what it is yet. And it just sort of ends with this lady. She's calling the man Jeb. Jebediah, I guess is his name, but he goes by Jeb. She's calling him a name, Hellrider. So that's going to come into play, I guess, in the subsequent issues here. But really neat comic. I'm going to definitely pick up the next one. I'm going to add this to my pull list. It'll be cool to see where they go with this. I like the setting. The art works really good for the whole story and everything. The coloring is really cool. Definitely pick that up if you're into that sort of stuff. The next comic I want to talk about is one I've talked about before. This is The Killer, Modus Vivendi. This is issue number 6 of 6. I've collected them all since number 1. And once I started collecting it, I realized this collection of 6 is volume 3 in the Killer series. There's 2 others that came before this, and I haven't read them. But at first I felt you didn't really need to read them to enjoy this comic. But after reading issue number 6, I think you definitely should read the other 2, and I'm going to try to get them and read them, and I'll talk about them on a subsequent episode. But because basically the story ends in here, but it doesn't end. I mean, this last one, there's really no murders that he was hired to do. He travels somewhere with his friend, and they meet some bikers that owe some money, and they get into a shootout and kill a bunch of them. So, I mean, and he's got this girlfriend, and, I mean, it's a whole complicated story, and it's not like you could say, okay, this is about this. You have to read you have to read them all, I think, to understand, and then read the ones that come out after this. So, I love the artwork in here. It's really a neat style. Matt is the writer, and Jacquemin is the artist. I'm sure I'm butchering these names. These guys are from France. So I don't really know how to pronounce them. But Matt's is a really good writer. I really enjoyed this series. You definitely need to read the others, though, if you're going to collect it, I think, which I'm going to try to do myself. So I would say it's sort of a mystery crime. It's not even a mystery because it's like there's government conspiracies and, you know, it's cool. I like it. I think if you're into, that sort of genre, they took a trip up to Canada in this issue. He's usually the main guy, the killer. You don't ever really know his real name. He lives in South America, and there's all these. He's hired to kill, and then other people have like stuff on him, and they want him to do more killings, and he does it, and it's a cool story, but it's kind of deep, and you have to sort of spend a lot of time with it. The next comic I want to talk about, and that's from Archaic Comics, by the way, The Killer. The next one I want to talk about is Bullet to the Head. This is issue 6 of 6 also. And this is also by Matz as the writer. But there's a different artist on this. It's Colin Wilson. And this series is a crime series. I've talked about it before. I've collected this since issue number 1 also. I've talked about this one before. It's 2 cops, 2 bad guys, and a lot of political stuff, conspiracies, senators killed, and the cops that are on the scene want to investigate this crime, and the feds show up and say, we're covering it, we're taking care of it, you guys, cops get lost. And then the cops decide they want to keep looking into it because they think there's a cover-up going on. Meanwhile, the bad guys that are involved, they're doing their thing. And what happens in subsequent issues were that one of the cops gets killed and one of the bad guys gets killed. And so that one remaining cop and the bad guy team up with each other to figure out, who's done this and what's, what the whole story's all about. So it wraps up in this issue really good. Good ending, which, I love. I'm not a fan of these series that have crappy endings, which a lot of them seem to. Great artwork in here. I really like the colors. I really like the art style. Most of it's good. There's a couple scenes there where it wasn't great, but I really, really like the artist on this, Colin Wilson. This series would definitely make a great movie. Like a buddy cop thing where, it takes a twist where the bad guy and the cop team up. Really good stuff. I really enjoyed this series. Highly recommend it. It sort of ends with like a question, like maybe these guys will do stuff together in the future, but it sort of just, it has a nice ending where it doesn't leave you hanging at all. They could definitely do another one though if they wanted to. Pick that one up. That's by Dynamite Entertainment, by the way. Highly recommend that one. And this is another final issue. This is Baltimore, the Plague Ships. This is issue 5 of 5. This is by Dark Horse Comics. Mike Mignola is the story guy, and Christopher Golden is also one of the writers. And Ben Stenbeck is the artist. I'm not going to say a lot about this series. It's pretty good. The art style is okay. I didn't love it. The coloring is odd, but it's okay. Really neat art, but weird and not great. It's just strange. I enjoyed the series somewhat, but it has sort of a crappy ending, and I didn't really like the way they went with the story. Lord Baltimore is in this, and he's fighting zombies, but they're not really zombies. They're a little different, and I don't know. It's kind of a cheesy story. I would say skip this one. It's okay if you're a big Mike Mignola fan. I'm probably saying his name wrong. You'll probably like the series if you're a big fan of him. I'm not a fan of his, so it was okay, and the artwork was okay. I would say skip this one maybe, but that's it for this week. Please leave a comment here on YouTube or over on my blog at 2.night.net and let me know what you're reading this week. Have you read any of the comics I reviewed? And thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.